And
I'm sorry, why don't you repeat that for me? What?
when I tell you like it is so far, it's worse than what I tell you. But whatever it is, it gets worse to you. I mean, it's actually worse. And when you're overseas, you're there long enough to appreciate the guys day in and day out coming across North Africa and up Italy and going that D-Day. You appreciate the fact that all they had to look forward to was just living another day. I was in the same category on a shorter frame. But now I know some of them got hurt, and when they tell about Iwo Jima and stuff like, oh, I'm glad I wasn't there. But I was at a bad place too. You know, even after I came back, they had 3 months of more fierce fighting after the Battle of the Bulge. You know, reading about it and stuff. Okay.
Now I want to go back just a little bit. When you got on the ship to come over to go to Liverpool, how did you feel? Because you were leaving the U.S. and you were going to the battle zone.
Well, you know, some things you don't like to think about. I guess I was able to put them out. But you could start dwelling on, well, maybe I'd never see America again or my family. But there are other places to think that too, but I didn't think it. To me, I owe all of my coming through it to God. And I don't mean that in a way that's flimsy. More than once during the day, I would say, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for thou art with me. I think God saw something in me because I was a church-going person as a kid. And I never did get scared. Like, you know, you think somebody battle fatigue or fright. I was concerned, but I thought, where could I go? Where could I run to? There's no place to run to. You just do it. And it's just like I say, when it's a few days in and day out, and I wasn't there that long. But that's what goes through your mind. It's not bombs. Well, when we stopped at Luxembourg City, and they gave us a rifle, we went out and zeroed it in. Hearing those shells got your mind messed up. You know, it's becoming real. You're getting closer and it's becoming more real. Because from Luxembourg City is where we went on into Bastogne. But from Liverpool, we went to Southampton. That's a nasty, wet, cold. Spent one night there, then got on a boat to go across the channel, which was a big, dirty boat, English boat. On the other side, we got off the boat on the LSTs. That's like they used to go ashore and on the day of D-Day. I went ashore in the same thing, but they weren't firing bullets. But this boat, on the side of the boat, you'll see there's places where they load and unload that's up above the water. The LST was rocking like this. And just when it got to the top, you're supposed to step off on it. Now, if you missed it or too early, anyway, I hit it. It helped me running the hurdles, I guess.
Yeah.
But we got on that and went to shore, waited a little bit, but still you can appreciate the guys. And I asked the question, who was it, like in the Battle of the Bulge, who was it that didn't know that they had a big buildup? They knew everything else. There was more American soldiers killed in the Battle of the Bulge than the American soldiers was killed going ashore at Normandy. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either until I read it in documents, that there was more American soldiers killed. They ran over them. I remember reading the Stars and Stripes when I was on the front about the Malmedy massacre. there was a group of men that they had captured, standing in the snow, and the tanks would come by, they'd just shoot in amongst them until they thought they'd all had them dead. At the end of the day, when it was still almost dark, 3 of them got up and started running. I believe God makes sure somebody's alive to tell of certain atrocities, to not go unknown. That's what I believe. And just think what they had to put up with. And now I just, well, we'll get to it.
So when you came into Liverpool and then you were kind of traveling forward, what month was that? Because this is in '44, right? So what
Yeah,
month
that was the last part of November, and maybe the first few days of December. And because they intended to send, and they did send us down to Metz, which is southern France. But we immediately got off the boxcars and onto the trucks and headed to Luxembourg City, because Patton and his 3rd Army and the 4th Armored Division was ordered up there. And the next day, after we zeroed our rifles in, it was still dark. We went into Bastogne. And you don't know what to expect there. But I'm getting ahead. When I got to Bastogne, they let us out of the trucks because I hadn't been assigned to my squad yet. I went in this building where people live and have a cow in the back, but I never did see them. And the stairs went up. For some reason, I went upstairs. That's the worst thing to do, but I went upstairs. And I could look over, like in that corner, the whole building was over, and mortar shells and rockets was coming in, just like it was a thunderstorm. I just laid down and went to sleep. The next morning I got up and we, now I don't want to get too far, if that's, but that's in the days when I was assigned with the 4th Army as a machine gunner on a half-track as a replacement. And we spent 4 days and 4 nights at Bastogne. And every night they would glide in, and when you'd hear the motor going, they've already dropped their bomb. And when we first, the first day I was at Bastogne, one of the guys I sort of made friends with, he could play a piano. And looking across the street down the way, like if you ever seen a dollhouse where it's open on one side, you play, that's the way most houses were, most buildings were. We were fortunate here. Up on the 2nd floor was a piano. And we were going to get together later that evening and go over there, and he's going to play the piano. But our squad leader and the guys over us said, no, you stay here in this building. We're getting the squad together, this and that. But the ones that went over there, during that night, a bomb hit right smack dab. It's just like someone that cut a cake and took that out. 11 guys was killed in the bottom, in that bomb blast. That's not good. And while we were there, there was dead Germans laying around frozen that had our uniforms on, which made it difficult. But one thing they didn't know or realize is when they parachuted out, they had their own helmets on. And their helmets give them away more than anything.
So the Germans, they were sending some Germans in who were dressed in American
Yeah.
uniforms.
They had to infiltrate, and at least 3 times a day we were changing passwords, because of a night you'd have to know the password or you got shot. And that this one German I remember seeing, just laying there, it's no fun even looking at a dead person, you know the enemy's there, but frozen in our uniform. And then its helmet. But I've read a lot about Bastogne later, and they're talking about that, about them parachuting in with their helmets. Somebody wasn't all there. But that was good.
So it was, I know that kind of happened in the latter part of December, right?
No, that was, let's see. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, because I was in Bastogne on Christmas Day, and New Year's or New Year's was out in the open. But on one of those days, I was walking guard duty on the sidewalk, and our Air Force was flying over dropping supplies, that is, food stuff. It was called K ration. One loaf of bread, a wedge of cheese impregnated with bacon, some canned goods, which is the old C ration from World War I, and a D bar, which was a hard chocolate, some candy and cigarettes, and whatever. Anyway, what went on our half track, they got my cigarettes because I didn't smoke. I got their candy. I got that old D bar. Quite a few days, all I had was bites off of that old chocolate and the hard candy and little boxes of granulated sugar. And as far as water, I never did get to drink out of my canteen because it was frozen solid. I'd lick snow off the tree. That's all the liquid I got, except one time they brought hot coffee up. And we had hot cakes, hot coffee, and something else on the back of a truck. We lined up across the snow there to get it. And I went over somewhere to sit down. The first sip, you have a little cup that your canteen sits in. The first sip was too hot. Then I ate some of my stuff, and about 20 seconds later, it had cooled down. And about another 20 or 30 seconds, I started to drink a sip of it, and it had a little sheet of ice on the top of it. That was the hot coffee. So that's how cold it was. And that's when you're digging the two-man foxhole. And it's warm. I have to be honest with you. It's warm under a shelter half and another shelter half and about 6 or 8 blankets. Because we were in half tracks or in our own transportation, we could accumulate a bedroll. And we had about 6 or 7 Army blankets. We would put the canvas down and the blankets, 1 or 2 on us, and then the other canvas was on the top. Next morning there'd be 1 foot or 2 feet of snow on top of that. And but it would be warm. And like I say earlier, when my eyes started smarting from the warmth, I thought it was gas.
You thought it might be gas.
But we'd dig 2 or 3 foxholes a day, and that was no fun. And about this far down, it was frozen solid. And you'd give anything for an axe or the old-fashioned heavy pick, because all we had is those, what they call an entrenching tool, little spade that bent back, and the little axe thing or pick looked like toys, but they would work.
How
Now,
did you break through that?
once we get through, it wasn't fun. Sometimes when the tanks was nearby, they had an axe on their tank. We'd bar it. You'd hit that thing would split. Then the ice would split, and that was like uptown. Then you get down there, it's just dipping it out, sort of. We get down about 2 feet, as long as you're below level. and it was warm, but to protect you. Mostly from if a shell come in and exploded, they explode up. But someone shooting or coming through, if you don't want them to be asleep. But anyway.
Can you describe a little bit for someone who maybe is not familiar with why the battle at Boston was important, and kind of what was happening there?
Yeah, of course, like even in France, we were going through taking territory and holding it. We wasn't pulling back out and giving it up like in Vietnam. Who would ever want to fight those poor guys? They'd go out and fight, come back. Go out and fight and come back. You would fight through an area, take it and hold it, whether it's woods or buildings or what. And we were in Bastogne. They had just taken it and was holding it. They were surrounded. And from there north, it's where what they call the Battle of the Bulge or the Breakthrough, where they came through. And a lot of my fighting was fighting toward the north, cutting the ones that came through off to join up with the ones on the north side, a place called St. Vith. You'll see it in the map. And Malmedy, up that way. And but if they had made it to Antwerp, the war would have went on another year at least. They were heading toward Antwerp.
The Germans.
Yeah, no, Holland there, up north. They don't have France. After I left, I read where Batten and his group went across the Rhine. I never did make it to Germany, but they went into Germany, and then, like I say, 3 or 4 months later, it was over.
Now, can you describe for me kind of, and just, do this to the best of your ability, what you feel comfortable with, but can you describe kind of what the fighting was like and what your role was in that?
Usually I would take the machine gun if you leave the track, and you've got somebody else that helps you. You've got someone that has ammunition. And when you use a machine gun, you don't aim it. You just, you know how a garden hose is, you water. You watch the tracer. And we had left on this particular morning. Actually, it was the last morning. We had left the half track. And we took what we needed. We'd gone so far and come to an area where we got pinned down. And someone thought they were over by a tank trap and a tree. So they called for machine gun fire over there. So we set up, aimed over there, all around that, and up and down the tree. Then we went on, but later we got pinned down again. And we had, this is in the open now, you know how woods are. And we had to lay there at least 2 hours until the tanks got up, come in front of us so we could get up and run, get across the opening into the woods. Still going on against the Germans. And but after I'd made that spray and they indicated we was to go on, was the back of this barbed wire fence, I picked up the machine gun, lunged forward, and my foot got caught on the barb on the barbed wire. And the machine gun wouldn't have been all that hot, but it would have been hot because you see little holes in the covering. It's called an air-cooled machine gun. And then my friend that dug in with me got my foot loose. Then I went on up another 10 or 20 feet, another 10 or 20, and he was coming. Then I heard him call for a medic. I never seen him again. He got shot. So I imagine wherever machine guns are, they like to knock them out. So I didn't have ideal assignment, but it was fun shooting that with a tracer. But that was the start of that day, and there was other days like it, but it wasn't this bad because we'd got a lot of guys. Going across the opening, after we got across, we went through the woods, flushing them out. We were probably 20, 30 yards apart. For all practical purposes, I was there by myself. It wasn't holding hands going through. But every now and then, like this one time, I stepped up behind this tree full of snow, and there was just a little opening, probably about 20 yards or so. And there stood a German with a burp gun. Now, if you know or study up, a burp gun is the fastest shooting gun there was then. I mean, it put 20 shells in it before he'd get his finger off the trigger. And meantime, the person with me got shot. I didn't have all the parts to the machine gun, so I put it on the back of a tank. So all I had was my M1 like the others. So when I saw him and he saw me, like again, it seemed like it was 30 minutes, but it wasn't. I brought my rifle up. When I did, he threw his down, yelled, "Comrade." Can you imagine the good feeling that is? That meant he surrendered. One guy, "Comrade." I said, "Okay, comrade." He came over, took his cartridge belt off. I took him over to the lieutenant. Went back like a nut. See, I was young. Yelling, "Come the house, Nick Houston. Come the house." Here come 5 more. I took them over. They took all that stuff